We'll be in Austin tomorrow to discuss 6 projects with the Commission, 4 pertaining to construction and 2 for designation or new additions to the state highway system. The 6 projects include the northwest quadrant of Interstate Loop 820. We'll be asking for construction there. Also, we'll be asking for construction funds for State Highway 121 from Spur 350 in the Bedford area, north and east to Grapevine. Also, construction funds for State Highway 360 from Interstate 20 on the south to State Highway 183 on the north. The 4th project we'll talk about this construction funds is US 287 from the southeast quadrant of Fort Worth, south and east through Midlothian, Waxahachie, and Ennis, concentrating on this portion in Tarrant and Johnson counties. We're also going to ask for designation to the highway system of 2 brand new projects. One, the North Side Southwest Freeway through the urban area of Fort Worth, and a second from the north interchange to the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, north and westerly into the city of Denton. These 6 projects have been discussed with the Texas Highway Commission prior to this time, and they're just simply not as far along in their point of development as we had hoped for, and we're simply going to go down and talk to the Commission about accelerating this public works program.
The taxicab business at Dallas Love Field is a very lucrative operation, and the independent cab companies here in Dallas want a piece of that action. Yesterday, the Dallas City Council gave them that opportunity. Now that an ordinance has been passed, independent cab companies have the opportunity to apply for a cab stand to be built here at Love Field to go along with the franchised yellow cab operation. We talked with the City Public Utilities Director, Thomas Taylor, about that action.
There's just not enough space. If you really made a decision based on whether there's enough room for them, there really is not. Because whatever room you allocate to the taxi cabs must come away from the general public. And the general public is already complaining that there's not enough room for them at the airport now. So, the space will have to be carefully looked at, and it won't be much space. There just isn't much room.
What will this victory, as questionable as it seems to be for the independent cab companies, what will it really mean to them by, say, 1973, the proposed completion date for the regional airport?
Well, the taxi cab business at airports is very good. So they would like to have the revenue just in these couple of years. But I'm sure they're also looking ahead to establishing some capacity, some ability to serve airports. They haven't heretofore served airports. And they're looking ahead, I'm sure, to the possibility that maybe they'll get a chance to help serve the regional airport, because the independent companies in Dallas are improving their operations. They're better companies now than they used to be.
Tell you what he saw or observed.
Officer Lambert?
When I was standing behind Officer Barton, and the man, wasn't able to see the man, but when the shot went off, Officer Barton was right in front of me, went back, and I stepped back, and all I could see was an arm with a pistol, and so I took a shot at that, and then the sergeant yelled for me to get back and down. So I went around, the man came back out on the front porch, and the sergeant and I both fired at the subject, and he went down. And then I went and got Officer Barton and put him in a police car and took him to the hospital.
I would feel that essentially we are in favor of some restraint. And so accordingly we would be in favor of his decision.
Did his decision surprise you in that he took the mildest of his opportunities?
I think maybe we were of the opinion that it was somewhat milder than what we had anticipated.
Nationwide, there was an increase last year in the construction industry of 13.3% in wages, whereas industry in general experienced an increase of only 7.8%. What would be your reflection on this malalignment of increases?
Well, this is very true. As far as our industry, the forest products industry, basically the increase last year was about 7%, and we would be anticipating about the same this year.
Mrs. Bradley, can you briefly describe for us exactly what happened as the man came to your window?
Well, he just walked in the door, and I asked him, could I help him? And he just laid the sack in the window and said, fill it up. And I said, are you kidding? And he said, no, ma'am, I'm not, and showed me the gun. And that was just about it.
And what were you thinking and feeling in these moments?
I don't know. I just wanted to get him the money and get him out.
Well, I haven't come to no conclusion as yet. I haven't made my choice yet who gonna win. I think I'll win the fight is only because I have never been to the training camp yet. See either one of the boys train, but but so far from watching both fight and as I lean a little bit towards Frazier only because that he been fighting regular and Clay had laid off for 3.5 years.
You think Clay's slipping?
Well, I don't think he had the same thing he had 3.5 years ago because I think it's humanly impossible for him to be as good as he was 3.5 years ago. And second is that I don't think he's not as fast as he was 3.5 years ago.
Mr. Lewis, if you were fighting today, who would you rather face, Clay or Frazier?
2.5 million I'll face Jack Dempsey.
Well, right now, the state of Texas is in a position that they're only using some of their facilities 9 months out of the year. I feel that they should use all their resources, their buildings, their facilities 12 months out of the year.
What other specific points do you have in mind?
Well, right now, also, the state is subsidizing $30 million from the General Revenue Fund to the Highway Department for the Farm to Market Road program. We feel that this subsidy no longer has any value. Originally, when it was put in as a statute with the legislature, it was to bring the farmers out of the mud. Their ultimate goal was 35,000 miles of farm to market roads. There are over 50,000 miles at this time. So we feel that the subsidy has long since lost its value.
This is actually the second proposal submitted by the hospital board. The first, presented last year, was termed financially unworkable by county officials. The proposal today calls for a plan to expand through 1976, spending $11.5 million, the money to come from general revenue bonds. The major feature of the proposal would be the reevaluation each year by county commissioners to see if the guidelines of the program are being met. If they are, then the next phase of the program would be put into operation. Board member Jack Bean, who made the presentation to the commissioners, said the guidelines are based in the main on forecasts.
The guidelines show on a department-to-department basis the amount of patients that we should have in emergency and the amount of money we should receive for the care given. It showed us going from a 208-bed hospital to a 500-bed hospital, and the amount of paid patients that we should have to pay off the bonds.
The program itself calls for expansion in almost every area of John Peter Smith Hospital. One example is expanding from 3 operating rooms to 12 by the end of the program. It also calls for a tax increase of 5 cents in 1972. But as long as the guidelines are being met, no further tax hikes are expected. Jerry Park, Channel 8 News on the Move at John Peter Smith Hospital, Fort Worth.
East of Waxahachie, I drove by a farmhouse in which the vehicle was being pulled into a garage at the rear. recognize the license number and the type and color of vehicle as being similar to the one we were looking for. Stopped, called for assistance. One subject pulled the car on into the garage and locked the doors. As he came back out from the garage, I apprehended him. While waiting for some assistance, the other subject came around the corner of the house, offered no resistance, and surrendered.
I hope that these do not bring about any questions about refunding. I think that the suggestions we make are good suggestions. I have some confidence that the project will implement these suggestions.
Do you have that confidence because of contact with persons connected with the project?
No, I have confidence that they will be because I think they're good suggestions, and I think people on the Dallas Legal Services Board of Directors will recognize that these are good suggestions and should be implemented.
It's been a controversial project all along, and there have been a number of things tried, including changing directors. So why would you think that there would be any difference now?
Well, we hope that this action of the Dallas Bar in positively making these recommendations will have some effect in getting them implemented and thereby improving the project.
Would there be any consideration given to preferring that the present configuration of Dallas Legal Services Project be ended and then another organization begun under direct sponsorship of the Dallas Bar Association?
There had been no consideration by the Dallas Bar of that, no, sir.
Ed, you've been up in Mr. Rodriguez's room for close to 2 hours. What is his side of the incident which led up to the shooting?
Mr. Rodriguez was asleep in his home, as was the rest of his family, and he was awakened by his children crying and heard the door of his house kicked open, went to the door and was shot.
He did not actually fire first then?
That's correct.
Now, does he feel that the police have done him wrong, so to speak?
I didn't ask him.
In other words, he doesn't really feel at this point any animosity. He just is injured then.
He didn't know who shot him. Barton and Officer Lambert walked up to the front porch as I was pulling into the driveway of the house and getting out of my car. A colored male walked out on the front porch with a shotgun, and he had it pointed in a safe position, pointed toward the ground. He walked up very near the officer and throwed it up quickly and shot the officer somewhere in the stomach. The officer was knocked back to the grass. The man with the shotgun also had a pistol, and he fired it. I'm not certain. I thought it was at me. I returned the fire, of course, and the man went back into the house, came back out, and shot some more, and I emptied my revolver, and the man went down.